In today's quick video, I'm going to be giving you a pretty unscripted, more in-depth first opinions kind of video on the XT-30, the Fujifilm XT-30, which I'm filming on right now, comparing it to the Sony a6300, which was my previous camera that you've seen a lot of my videos on. I had the opportunity yesterday to actually go out and shoot with the two side by side from evening to really low light. Again, being that that's how I primarily shoot, those are the kind of videos I'm primarily doing. It was really a good side-by-side comparison for them. So I did a lot of panning up and down. It was all handheld like I normally do. I did a couple walking tests and I had the opportunity to review the video comparison footage between the two, and it just helped me re-justify the purchase of the Fujifilm XT-30, upgrading from the Sony a6300, as well as helping re-justify the fact that I chose to not go for what they consider the upgrade to this, the a6400, and instead going for, again, the Fujifilm. When I was making the purchase of the Fujifilm XT-30, it took me, I was watching those initial kind of reviews that weren't really reviews, they were kind of first looks, like a month prior to it coming out and actually being officially released. It had just been kind of teased. And at that same time, I know the a6400 had been released shortly before this had, and so I had the opportunity to get that beforehand, but I still decided to wait and get this. Again, I did not feel that the a6400 was actually really an upgrade to the a6300. I think when it comes to Sony actually releasing the actual upgrade to the a6300, I think it's going to be in the 7000 series. I think there's a reason why they called it the a6400 and not the a6600 or the a6700 or the a7000 whatever series. We still have an a6500, so why is the a6400 below it? And again, that's because I feel it offers incremental improvements to the a6300. It doesn't offer all the features of the a6500, but it's somewhere between the two where it's like a middle ground where it offers some pros but also has some cons at the same time choosing between the a63 and the a6500. And now what do I mean by that? So the a6400 is basically at its heart a more refined a6300. You're getting the same exact body for the most part, you're getting the same exact sensor, the same lens lineup, fine, except for that first part, it's the same sensor. So you're not actually going to be getting any better image quality out of the a6400 over the a6300. So while I can snag this a6300 with a kit lens for about $750, I have to spend $900 to get the a6400. What are the improvements? Granted, it has that nice flip-up screen like that. It has the fix of longer battery life as well as no overheating. Great things, all things that I wish the Fujifilm had. But in my opinion, the Fujifilm offers, and I talk about this in my other comparison, which you'll see in a few days, of the side-by-side video quality between the two cameras at low light with the kit lenses. Those are great upgrades, but in my opinion, they're not substantial enough to justify selling this to basically get the same exact camera with just a few minor upgrades. The Fujifilm, on the other hand, and this is why I might go into more detail later, but the Fujifilm is actually an upgrade over the a6300 and in fact the a6400 in a lot of ways. While it doesn't have that flip-up screen, and while it lacks a full 3.5mm audio in jack, it has a lot of benefits over the a6300, the a6400, and the a6500. What are those? So let's start with why it's not better. Again, it doesn't have the flip-up screen to the a6400, and it also doesn't have in-body stabilization as the a6500 has. But it has an improved sensor. From my tests, I found that it is actually better in low light. It is significantly better in 1080p and slow motion. It was extremely soft on the a6300 and I hardly ever used it. It was extremely terrible in my opinion. And while there were ways to, you could sharpen it and all that, it's a lot of work to actually get quality footage out of the 6300 and still the 6400 with its 1080p footage. So I wanted to actually start to utilize that kind of cinematic slow motion that you can get out of the XT-30 and other cameras with its 1080p. When comparing the Fujifilm XT-30 to other choices that I could have had, the other ones that I was considering would be the a7 III, but that's way out of my price budget. What was almost in my price budget was the XT-3. However, it was still a little more expensive. The XT-30 essentially had everything that the XT-3 had with the exception of 4K 60. I wish I had that, but I doubt I'd be shooting that much slow motion to really justify the price difference of the pre-order bundle and now the current bundles that you can get with the XT-30, and it's the lens choices that they give you as well. That said, I would benefit and I would appreciate having the higher bit rate of the XT-3. It goes up to 400 instead of 200. Again, it wasn't significantly worth it in that you're getting the same exact sensor for the most part with the exception of some of those minor upgrades to it. We touched upon bitrate. The bitrate part's very important. Sony is still a max of 100 megabits bitrate at 4K, whereas the Fujifilm not only is a full 4K image, whereas this is UHD, I believe, for the Sony. The Fujifilm is not only giving you true 4K, it's also doing it at 200 megabits per second. So that means you have more information in the file that you're working with, and in turn that means you can color grade it a little further and you have more detail in there. So I think that is the primary reason why when it comes to low light footage that you're getting better image quality out of it. So again, I shoot primarily in low light. There were a lot of scenes, again, when I was comparing the two with the kit lenses, where this looked significantly cleaner. Perhaps not as bright. A lot of people notice that the a6300, the a6400 is about maybe a half stop brighter, but it's cleaner on the Fuji. And Fuji has some other settings that you can go into that help with minimizing low noise at certain ISOs and things like that, so I do believe I had that enabled as well. Whatever Fuji's doing, if it's in the combination of a better sensor, the higher bit rate, as well as whatever it's doing internally with its chip, all in all, it's turning into better quality footage in low light, as well as what we previously touched upon, the 1080p. So you'll be seeing that actual comparison, the side-by-side of the Fuji to the Sony in the next few days again, but I wanted to kind of give this rough, uncut comparison to the two because a lot of you have been asking for my actual update on this. So as opposed to me writing out a script and actually going to very much detail, which I can do later, I want to kind of give this incremental update, just as the a6400 is an incremental update to the a6300. The Fujifilm has been really good to me so far, and I've appreciated the upgrades it has offered. Additionally, other things that I can point out really quick, I'm just gonna shoot them out real quick right now. The a6400 has better autofocus than the a6300. I haven't had a chance to play with it. Some would argue it has better autofocus than the XT-30. Just looking at the a6300 to the XT-30 as far as autofocus, this is a significant upgrade in my opinion. I was just doing walk-bys. I'm walking towards the camera, walking away from the camera, walking in frame and walking out of frame. And the XT-30 caught my face a lot faster. Sometimes the a6300 wouldn't. It would be still focusing on the background or strobing in and out, things like that. Whereas the XT-30 was much more reliable for it. Additionally, it has really good eye tracking. So I had Mia on actually filming me. She was holding the two cameras and she was able to monitor them. So in addition to noticing that this caught onto me a lot better, she was noticing that it was catching onto either one of my eyes really well. So you know that it was focusing on your face. This would be especially important for photography, catching onto your eye. That's usually what you want to have in focus versus your nose or your other parts of your face or your torso or whatever. Whereas the a6300, if it catches onto you, it's just going to be your face. And again, I haven't had the chance to work with the a6400. I have reached out to Adorama to see if they would be willing to perhaps sponsor a video in the future and provide a sample a6400 for me to actually do a comparison to. Because again, I think I have a unique perspective here on comparisons and the way I make them. The way I film is more unique. It's pretty similar to how a lot of you would be doing it, just the run and gun kind of style. Whereas these people who are getting the review samples are more likely to actually, be actually doing a more professional kind of shoot, which is great and all, and I've had experience doing things like that, but for the most part, a lot of you who are just the more prosumers are just going to want to go out and shoot. The guerrilla style, I call it, of just going out and shooting, that is a whole different ball game to the other shoots that someone would do. So while people will be like, oh, it's perfect in this situation, the a6400 stands out as a better video camera in this situation, they're not considering a couple things that make the XT30 stand out as better, and that would be, you know, you're not using ideal lighting situations, you're just using the natural light from the buildings, the street lamps, whatever the car is passing by. So that's why the XT30 has, again, the better sensor and the higher bit rate, making it cleaner. But the other thing that I don't think a lot of people have touched upon yet, and this is a very important one, and I hate that I'm only getting to it at this point, is the rolling shutter. I definitely had a chance to test out the rolling shutter between the two. The a6300, again, is notorious for having really bad rolling shutter. The XT30 improves upon it a lot. For whatever is going on inside there, it's just way less of a jello effect, you know? You'll notice when you're panning, I've had so many cinematics where I thought I got a really nice shot. I'm just either out of a car window or just whipping my gimbal around really quick or just panning up and down for whatever situation it was. And I just found it not to be very usable even when applying warp stabilization on this. That just ruined the shot and I couldn't use it in the cinematic. Because again, this is the kind of shooting I'm doing. I'm just handheld, I try to stay still. Maybe I'm walking a little bit, but I'll just pan up and down, right to left, whatever. A lot of shots were ruined because of that jello effect, the rolling shutter. God, it took me, what, 20 seconds to get that. Whereas this is a lot better. It's still going to be there a little bit, but highly minimized in comparison to this. So that's a great upgrade in my opinion. Likewise, I can shoot for, just going on the list of just strictly XT30 to a6300, better battery life, not overheating. I've never had the high temperature or overheating warning on the XT30 so far. Granted, I haven't done like 20-minute clips back to back. But when I used to use this, especially in a work setting, where I would either do a short film or I would try to do a product review or product unboxing video for my company, always, if I was shooting in 4K with this, it would overheat after about 20 minutes. You could probably do 20 minutes of this, let it cool down for about 5 to 10 minutes. You could do another 10 to 20 minute video, but near the end of that, it would be showing that overheating clip for a very long time and it would just shut down. Horrible. There were times where if you're not monitoring it, again, you just lost footage. If I'm just doing something like this where I don't know if it's actually recording, except I'll get to that in just a second, you have to redo it. You'd have to wait for this to cool down for like 20 minutes before you could even turn it on again. Ironic really that I just had to restart this portion here of the low battery because the XT30 died. Granted, I did the entire shoot yesterday on the XT30 on one battery without charging it, without using a power bank, and I didn't charge it this morning. So that lasted another, what, 15, 16, actually I was practicing with it before, just setting this whole thing up. So at least 20 to 30 minutes between it being on and actually recording 4K, where it's done extremely well, plus the shoot yesterday. And now I just have the USB-C charger, which you can't see off screen there, powering this. Out of the XT30, really impressed out of it. Again, what we were just touching upon was the longer battery life, less rolling shutter, better in low light, as well as, well, it now moved over to USB-C, which is, you can consider that a pro as well. But we were briefly getting to where I was hinting at, well, I can't tell when it's recording on the a6300. The a6300 has its Sony Mobile Connect or whatever app, which allows you to take a photo, but it doesn't let you live view a video or edit the settings afterwards. If you have it in either picture profile, your custom settings 1 or 2, you can't, it won't actually let you use it in the app. I don't know if the updated version lets you. It only just recently got updated like a couple days ago because I just noticed it's still on my phone. I just removed it. On the Fujifilm, however, let's see if you can see this. I'm seeing myself live view over Wi-Fi connecting to the app. Granted, the first initial setups of trying to connect this to the phone were extremely difficult and it wasn't allowing me to actually alter any settings. However, for whatever reason, and I'll talk about how to actually set this up properly, the setting is hidden for Wi-Fi connection under some other random tab on your menu setting that is weird, but once you actually get it connected and get it in there, I'm able to alter all my settings. I still have my picture profile, my turn out flat profile set up on here, as well as I can change my shutter speed, my f-stop, and my ISO super easily. I don't know if I can do, it doesn't look like I can do it on the fly right now as I'm recording, but I can stop, edit it, re-record, and I can see myself. This is fantastic that I can do this. You don't have a flip out monitor. Cool. The a6300 doesn't. The a6400 does, which would be great for just doing this. However, I have my phone right here. What I could just easily do is, if I wanted to, I could just add a mount right there, or just anything. I could put this on a tripod, and it's fantastic. My hand is off screen or whatever. I can just press record, and just fantastic to have the app that actually works. Whereas, again, on the a6300, I don't know about the a6400 now, but I would assume it's very similar. It's probably using the same app, and again, using a very similar system as far as connecting it to the camera, where it's not going to be that much better. Hopefully that gave you a pretty good overview in comparison to the a6300, my thoughts on the a6400. Again, I'm hopefully going to be trying to get my hands on an a6400 so I can actually do side-by-side comparisons. The a6300 is will give you a good idea between the two, because it's essentially the same camera with the exception of a few minor improvements. I would not consider it a full upgrade over the a6300. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. Just again, this was uncut, no script. This is just my thoughts real quick. I have 22 seconds to wrap up here because of the memory card's gonna run out, but I appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe for more content and comparisons between the two cameras, and until next time, guys, peace.